First up, we have the T95Z Plus. This is by far the most popular Android box that's come out recently. This was the box that came out at an affordable price point but offered you an 8-core processor with 2GB of RAM and 16GB of storage. You also had the dual band Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in. One of the reasons I think this is one of the most popular boxes that I've seen in the last few years is because it came with a half decent remote which was programmable, and the appearance of the box, you could change the LED strip around the case. It also looked a bit different from most of the normal boxes that were usually square and not particularly interesting. It had that front LCD as well, which also I think added to the appeal of the box. In terms of the performance of the box though, I've always been very happy with this one. It easily handles the streaming. You can also do some gaming on it as well, and it did very well in the benchmarks too. You'll be able to see here on the Geekbench score that I've put up. Nice performance, and even 3D as well, a nice step up from some of the quad-core boxes that were around. So this is definitely one of the top picks. It's still a hot seller and certainly worth looking at if you want a slightly higher spec Android box. Next up, we have the T95K Pro. This is identical in hardware to the T95Z, but it offers you a slightly different case design. You have that funky colour scheme around the edges and top, gives you a sort of Lego bright colour appearance. Inside, it's exactly the same as the T95Z, so this is really just an alternative to that. You even get the same remote with this model that you did on the other one. Now, this has been a good box as well. I've been using this for quite a long time. Really, there's nothing between the two other than the slight difference in the front display. So really just go for which one appeals to you on the design. The hardware isn't going to offer you any difference in performance. Both of these boxes are loaded. Plenty of streams are already added in Kodi. It's a nice little box if you want something a bit different. It won't appeal to everyone with the slightly wild colour scheme, but this has been a solid performer, and they've also made it pretty easy to adjust the add-ons in Kodi as well out of the box. Same problem though with the T95Z is the navigation bar can't be brought back, so that's one minor point to note with this box. But if you don't want the T95Z, this one is worth looking at. At number 3, I have the M9s Pro. This is again another variant of the S912 chipset. You've got the same RAM and storage, and we're running Android 6 again, so hardware is exactly the same as the other two boxes, but it's wrapped up in a much more traditional style box. So if you're not into a funky looking case or box design, this one might appeal to you. Also shop around on the price for these boxes. Sometimes you can get a deal on a specific model which might make it a bit more appealing rather than the visuals of the look of the box. Front end's a bit different on this one. This is branded with Lealbox. This is their own launcher. You can always change that if you want though. So a decent little box if the other two don't appeal. At number 4, I have the TX95. Out of all of the mid-level boxes that I used, this is the one that I preferred the most. You don't have the programmable remote that you have on the other boxes, although it's perfectly okay. What you do have is a slightly more interesting case design. The white body, lots of ventilation, you're not going to have any issues with overheating, and it's also bang up to date with H.265 decoding. You have the 2GB of RAM and 16GB of storage, so decent performance, although not quite up to the 8-core boxes. This does have a solid performance for most users. I also quite liked the front end on this. They have their own customized menu system. You can add items to the bottom. The only thing that I didn't like was the fact you don't have a navigation bar. It came preloaded with quite a few decent apps, and Kodi was also chock full of streams. They also added their own menu system as well to make it a bit easier to change some of the settings, so that you can go into the normal Android look if you want. It just makes it a bit easier setting up and using the box. So this was definitely one of my favourite ones at the mid price point. Performance was also pretty decent as well. Definitely worth looking at this one. At number 5, I have the Q-Box. It may have been out a while now, and it came out about a year ago or just over, but if you can get a good price on this or a bargain, it's still worth looking at. It definitely has a decent performance, although not quite bang up to date. It's Android 5.1, and you also had that Nice case design, albeit with a non-programmable remote. These come pretty much loaded out of the box, so there's not that much to do to them. You might want to adjust a few of the streams in Kodi, but you have the dual band Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. It's a reasonably good choice, although there are slightly better boxes out there. At number 6 I have the T10 Mini, and we're into the budget segment now, so I'm looking for solid performance at an acceptable price point, and this was one of the best boxes that I used for a budget box. You're basically looking at a Q box with the 8 gig storage and 1 gig of RAM, but I like the case design on this. It's a nice slim body. I also like the fact that you've got that programmable remote, so you can map the TV controls to the buttons at the top, although it's not going to replace an air mouse or touchpad. Nice little design on this box. Very happy with the performance. If you're just looking for a very basic normal box without any extra fancy bits, that's small and compact, this is quite a nice box to look at. Front end very similar to the other boxes, you can customize it, but there wasn't a navigation bar. If that's an issue, you can download your own launcher and customize the look, but you did get a lot of streams with Kodi pre-installed. It was also very easy to add and remove the streams, and the performance was quite respectable as well. You've that quad-core processor, S905 chipset. So if you don't want to spend too much money and you want a decent, reliable box, I found the T10 Mini to be a very solid choice, and it's one that I can personally recommend for budget buyers. At number 7 I have the Dolamee D5, and this was a super budget Android box that I reviewed, and you can shop around for the prices on this, but you should find it to be slightly cheaper than some of the S905 or S905X chipset boxes, which have 1 gig of RAM and 8 gig storage. That's what you're going to get in the super budget segment. Now there are some limitations. The processor is the RK3229. It's not as quick as the S905 or S905X, but it's still perfectly fine for streaming and doing normal activities on a box. What I did like was the small form factor, quite a nice compact box, and the fact that you got that programmable remote as well made it a bit better than some of the other remotes on other budget boxes. Front end was also quite pleasing, and you could customize the apps at the bottom, although you didn't have a navigation bar. No extras with this, no Bluetooth or anything like that, but a decent little super budget box and worth considering. Thanks very much for watching the video. I hope that was of some use to you, particularly if you're looking to buy an Android box. Remember, these are real reviews that I do. I don't just unbox the stuff and tell you to buy it. I list out areas that I don't like, areas that I do like, and areas that I would improve on the Android boxes, because that's important for buyers to make an informed choice. So do subscribe to the channel and you will see more Android box reviews coming along very shortly.